Shalom, shalom. So this is just a quick correction due to a slip of the tongue I made. I went off saying something during the live we had, which is referring to this passage that I have right here, pretty much going into Ptolemy and this word Ptolemais, in which I said were two different people. That no, they were the same person. Not realizing it was all, off the head fly, and, went over the material in a minute, that it was referring to, a place. But so another reason on top of that also caused me to pretty much go off was in the scriptures, like a handheld apocrypha versus the digital device, right? Because this is what came to mind. There is wording or lettering that's incorrect, right? Like, for instance, you'll have right here, you have the I for a J instead of a J, right? But that's a worse one. Let's get this one right here. That's not a good example because we obviously push no letter J. But right here you have a V for a U, discomfited, thus. But that's obviously saying discomfited by us, not discomfited by thus, right? This is throughout, right here. You have a U for a V in the word give, and that's clearly the word give right there. So that's what came to mind, was another thing that could cause me to go off. But like the scriptures say, there is one that slippeth in his tongue, but not in his heart. Because I knew this, but, like I said, there was a time before, it's been some time, since I last went over this, But nonetheless, I'm here to correct it. Dwadi Hawabashmi shot for that. So let's start right here. This is first Maccabees 10 and 51. First Maccabees chapter 10, verse 51, I'll start with. After Alexander sent ambassadors to Ptolemy, king of Egypt, with a message to this effect, right? It says, I'm going to jump to the point. This is verse 55. Then the point in 56. Then Ptolemy, the king, gave answer, saying, Happy be the day wherein thou didst return into the land of thy fathers, and sattest in the throne of their kingdom. And now will I do, is the point, verse 56. And now will I do to thee as thou hast written. Meet me therefore at Ptolemais. Right there, that's where I went off at on this Ptolemais. Now, technically, it is the same thing. It is the same person, because I'm going to just pull something up, right? During the Hellenizing period, the Hellenistic period, Hellenistic age, which is simply when the Greeks were ruling, who are revealed to be the Idumeans, aka the Edomites, today so-called white people, when they were ruling and Hellenizing and conquering everything. What ended up happening is one of the kings during that time, which were of the Diadochi, Ptolemy, he took over Egypt. And just how the scriptures tells us, let me just pull it up real quick. Let's go right here. Let's go to Micah. This is kind of outside of the point. It isn't, but it's another point I want to make within this. So let's go to the second chapter. Micah 2 and 2. I'll start at 1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. Notice all these letters. See that? Missing the E, the V for the evil, and etc. And also for the upon. But anyway, when the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand, and they covet fields and take them by violence. See that? And houses, and take them away, so they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. And that's exactly what happened here, right? Those Idumeans, those Greeks, today so-called white people, just regular so-called white people, they was coveting lands and taking them, right? So what ended up happening is Ptolemy, he named one of the places in Egypt after his own name, Ptolemais, right? So, or his title, which Ptolemy goes into basically general or war general, warrior, right? And that's what happened, you know, because obviously there's no actual place in Egypt called Ptolemy, but during their conquest, they renamed it. And that's what this is going into. They covered fields and take them by violence. So they did that in houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage. Now what I want to do now, I just did this video, you know, and it didn't record, so I'm redoing it. It's more concise on this one, so it's cool. Call on like how about Shmuel. Shout out, this is Psalms 49 and 11. Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names, and that's exactly what happened. So that's why I say technically, because there's, you know, Ptolemais was just in honor of his name, his title, him taking over that region, and it became known as Ptolemais, right? Which proves that these so-called white people today who took over America, named it after Amerigo Vespucci, Africa, the continent, which was originally Kham, and renamed it after him, which is today known as Africa, you know, but in honor of his name, Africanus, his last name. It proves that these people, so-called white people today, right, and they do it with their street names and everything. They do it with everything, right? Which we do too, because our land after our own name, Yasha Allah Israel, right? Us so-called Blacks, Latinos, and Native American Indians who understand we are the Israelites. Our land is after our own name, but they do it after they conquer it, right? They steal it from someone else. A land that was never named this, that wasn't theirs. Well, you did it with Canaan. No, that was always our land. That's the Garden of Eden. Those were heathens. Just like when we got kicked out, right? And heathens are there now. It's the same thing that happened when we got kicked out of the garden. And then that's how those heathens got there, to where we had, which were the Canaanites, but that's a whole nother thing, to where we had to go back and take them out. So the Lord, it's all sound, right? But this the difference. That's the difference between us and them. They take stuff that's not theirs, lands that's not theirs, and they name it after their own names. But like I said, that proves that these so-called white people today are these people, and these people then these Ptolemies and your Greeks, your Romans, as the scriptures say, who according to the scriptures were the Edomites, which is another name for the Edomites, are the so-called white peoples. And that proves that these so-called white people are the Edomites. Period. Right? So that's just clear. I got through this one way quicker. So call along like how about Shmuel Shah. So let me read it again. Psalms 49:11. Their inward thought is, right? I'm gonna actually start. I don't need to, right? It says their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names. You know? So now another thing I want to do after I pull this back up, right? Let's go here. Maccabees, we go to the first chapter, I'll do that. Because they came in and conquered this. I want to show some quick history, right? So journey to Egypt.com, right? Egypt map is going into, you know, pretty much the different settlements in Egypt over time, right? This is Egypt at a certain point, ancient Egypt. See these places? All right, so what it looked like. Keep going. Okay, there go Memphis. Okay, Africa. Okay, the one we more familiar with, right? And then you move on and expand, right? All right. And pretty much these lands were subjected to, during these heathen uproar or rises to having a kingdom or empire, these lands were being conquered, conquest, and they were being renamed. So like right here, it says ancient Egypt map under Persian occupation. See that? So it looks different. And it's even the same. Ancient Egypt during the Ptolemaic era. Ancient Egypt map under the Ptolemaic era. What happened? See, there go it changed. Alexandria, you know, library, Alexandria, all that, right? A so-called white man, he took over. when he came into power, with having his empires, right? Starting with the Greeks, all right? Kicked off by Alexander, the so-called Great. See that? And what happened? A place in Egypt became known as Ptolemais. There was obviously no actual place in Egypt named Ptolemais, but when they conquered it during the Hellenization period, when they went and conquered it, they named it after his name. He named it after his name. Ptolemy, he named it after him. So it became Ptolemais during the Ptolemaic times, right? As it says, Egypt was conquered by Alexander the Great. After his death, Egypt became under the control by his general Ptolemy and his descendants, like the beauty Cleopatra. Egypt capital transformed the new city of Alexandria that became the center of Hellenistic culture, which created some sort of a hybrid Greek-Egyptian civilization. That's what happened. And it stayed that name even during when the Romans took over. See that? Mark Antony, all right? All of these Roman generals and whatnot. But that's how that happened. That's the history. But that take you back here and this also proves the authenticness, right, of the Bible, the scriptures, and that the Apocrypha is canon, right? Bible, and also that the Bible 100% is a history book, man, right? So this is First Maccabees 1 proving that, and verse because the point pretty much made, but I just want to show this real quick. This is First Maccabees 1:16. Now when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt, that he might have dominion of 2 realms. Wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots and elephants and horsemen and a great navy, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt, who was of the Diadochi, who were the men who split up Alexander's conquest, his spoils, which was lands and whatnot, right? But it says, but Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. Thus they got the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. Who? Antiochus. See that? Is that simple? Who is just another so-called white person that came out of them with a wicked root? So let's prove that real quick in verse 7. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. And his servants bear rule, that's Alexander the Great, bear rule everyone in his place, which is who? The Diadochi, the 4. Cassander, Licinius, Seleucus, and Ptolemy, right? It says, and after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves, so did their sons after them. Many years and evils were multiplied in the earth. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been an hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. That's what happened. So all he did was come up after who? Go ahead and close out. Ptolemy did his thing. And what did he do? Starting at verse 51. And afterward, Alexander sent ambassadors to Ptolemy, king of Egypt. He took Egypt over with a message to this effect. And I'm going to jump down to the point. Verse 55, then Ptolemy the king gave answer, saying, happy be the day wherein thou didst return into the land of thy fathers and sattest in the throne of their kingdom. And now will I do to thee as thou hast written. Meet me therefore at Ptolemais. See? He running Egypt, so-called white man. That's named, he just named a place, right? Within a region, within it, after his name. So technically, Ptolemais, yeah, same thing, same person. But it was a place. It wasn't a person. And that's where I went off on. And Salaki for that. But the Wadi Halbah Shmiel Shafa let me come back, because I knew someone, right? But it says that we may see one another, for I will marry my daughter to thee according to thy desire. So Ptolemy went out of Egypt with his daughter Cleopatra, see, And they came into Ptolemais in 162nd year, where King Alexander, meeting him, gave unto him his daughter Cleopatra, and celebrated her marriage at Ptolemais with great glory, as the manner of kings is. So that's the point, man. All right. So this was just one of the Diadochi who took over, the region of Egypt, and named it after his own name, being Ptolemy, or his title, meaning Ptolemy, meaning warrior, or basically war general, Edomite war general. All right, which is completely lined up with secular history, which these scriptures, is 100% right. So this proves everything. So Lord, I just wanted to correct that. It's an actual place in reference to Ptolemy himself, his actual name. So Ptolemy is two different things. It's not a person, it's a place, but the place Ptolemais is in reference to Ptolemy's name. All right, so with that, call halam la Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai Wahara Kakodash. Until next time, Shalom.